Welcome to F-Bomb History.
Every evening when the sun goes down, get with my party and I begin to clown. I don't care what the people are thinking. I'm not drunk, I'm just a drinking. I set 'em up, another round. I set 'em up, another round. I set 'em up, another round. One more round won't get me down.
Previously on F-Bomb History.
I could use another beer.
I need another beer myself.
It might be our last beer.
Well, you don't say.
We're fucking poor and shit. You can fix this by donating to coffee.
Eddie,
Or
square me away, Eddie.
Panty Raid, or whatever it's called.
Eddie.
What's it called? Patreon.
Patreon.
Panty Raid. Oh my God! Did anybody teach you how to draw beer in fucking beer school?
Oh my God!
You don't learn that in beer school there,
Hey,
beer
sweetheart.
person.
Thank you, sweetheart. Is it gonna fit?
It's gonna fit.
I'm just asking.
That's what she said.
That's what she said.
That's what she said.
Wow. See,
Did you say that voice?
opened
again?
it all
Oh my
up.
God!
At the same time.
I got shit all over my face. That's what she said. Fucking.
Anyway, here we go.
Alright, here we go. Now, what happened was Washington said, hey, when you guys charge forward, I'm going to hit them from the flank.
And he.
Morgan said, hey, Howard, charge forward and in this shit. Alright, now you got to picture this. Alright, check this out. The entire British Army right now is reduced. I'm talking about seriously reduced. I'm talking about their officers and the NCOs are fucking shot, dead, wounded, whatever. Because remember, the snipers were shooting at the headquarters. So you have an entire army made up of corporals and privates.
Pretty
Now,
much.
not only have they been reduced, they've also been fighting all morning. Fighting with, I'm talking about a delaying fight all the way through the dark woods,
These
out into
guys-
this open field.
These guys, for you out there that have done this for a living before, these guys have been carrying a rucksack now for frickin' 3 days.
Yeah.
Fucking on a serious force march for 3 frickin' days.
And
In January, in the frickin' nasty ass weather that Haley talked about earlier, they've been force marching for 3 days in this shit, and they were told to frickin' go right into the fight.
also, they have not eaten in 24 hours.
They're sucking.
There were accounts of the British Army when the first shots were fired with the very militia line. Some of them were passing out. They were just passing out because they hadn't eaten so long. It wasn't from fear or anything else. It was just exhaustion.
They're fucking done.
So here you have an entire army made up of privates and corporals, and what they see is the American army with their backs, and they're walking away. Now, they are fucking pissed. Seriously pissed that they've seen their buddies die in droves. They're fucking hungry as shit, and they just want to end this fucking fight now.
So the 71st fucking is coming at you, dude. And the last people in the fucking American Revolution right now in the South that you want coming after you is the fucking 71st Highland Regiment. They're fucking badasses. They're like,
Yeah.
it's, no, you don't want those guys, you do not want those guys coming after you.
Now,
And they're coming after you.
Now, the main army there, I'm talking about the remainder of the British Legion, 7 Fusiliers, things like that, the infantry, not the cavalry, they're moving forward, and they're charging. There is no order to their charge. They're just ramming at them as fast as they can, stabbing in the fucking back in this fucking fight now.
Morgan said, or I'm sorry, freaking Washington said, they're coming on like a mob. Give them a fire and I'll charge them.
Now, what the American Army did, but you gotta picture this, is they were given the order to turn around and fire. Now, those guys turned around, they didn't even aim because the British at that point were 15 yards away. Think about that, 15 fucking yards.
Take care!
We're talking about a
To the
distance.
right about face! Make ready, present, fire!
So basically, the distance from one end of a school bus to the other end of a school bus, that's how fucking close they are. Now, you're also looking at about 500 guys guys with basically 12-gauge shotguns. They all turn around and they all fire. Now imagine 12-gauge shotguns all shooting in 15 fucking yards. The British Army, some of them realized what the fuck was about to happen. And they freaked out. And what they did was they ducked. They literally dropped their guns and laid fucking flat on the fucking ground. However, some of them didn't get the clue. There's always a few guys that never get the clue.
Yeah.
And so they kept charging, and when the Americans turned around and fired, literally without even aiming, from the hip, booyah! Massive death and fucking destruction. Now, right after that, the order was charge bayonets. The Americans didn't even delay, they just charged right through the smoke.
They didn't have to fix them because they already had them fixed because they showed up with their bayonets on.
Yeah, the Americans always, everybody fought with their bayonets on. That's just the way it was.
There was no fixed bayonets. You showed up with your bayonet on or you were fucking stupid.
Now, they just charged forward through the fucking smoke and hit the Brits. Now, the Brits began to fucking panic. Because first off, remember, it's privates and corporals, not a lot of leadership. They began to panic and start falling back. And then what happened was William Washington swung around and hit them from the fucking rear.
William Washington and McCall's freaking mounted militia. William Washington had McCall's mounted militia show up. And William Washington was like, hey, all your guys that ain't got swords? Wait, stand by. I'll give you swords out of my baggage wagons. So he issued out...
The night before.
The night before, he issued out like 50 freaking swords to the extra dudes. And was like, okay, bring it. Let's go. So all of a sudden, you got, instead of 80 freaking mounted freaking regulars...
200.
You've almost got 200
cavalry.
Mounted cavalry. And they swung around behind, and what you have is the American Revolution absolute freaking envelopment. The freaking equivalent of the Kane of the Roman times.
Every commander in the face of the earth, they always want what's called a double envelopment.
The double envelopment,
and the Battle of Cowpens is what he's talking about.
Fucking Europe, fucking the Falaise Gap.
Yeah. You know, basically you're hitting them from more than basically two sides at once, and you're surrounding them, and there's nowhere to go. The Brits couldn't handle this. They freaked the fuck out. They panicked. They threw down their guns and just fucking ran.
They said, we're fucking done.
No, wait.
The Americans were screaming, Buford's play. Well, Americans were screaming.
No. Charleston's quarter.
Charleston's quarter. Buford's play. Yeah. Charleston's quarter. And the British were like, holy shit, they're gonna fucking whack us.
Tarleton's quarter goes back to the Waxhaws when Tarleton was supposedly, according to the propaganda, killed everybody, but he didn't really, propaganda worked though. And so Tarleton's quarter meant no mercy. We're gonna kill every fucking body.
And freaking all of a sudden the Brits were like, oh fuck, they're gonna waste us all.
Now the 1st Maryland charged through this mob, and as they charged through the mob, they came across the British artillery. There's actually one dude.
Seriously?
Pick that thing up.
This thing?
This thing is this guy called an S-pontoon.
That right there.
Can't pull it out and knock the guns down, but it's a big fucking spear. So the guy, it's a symbol of leadership.
Oh my
it means
God.
you're in charge.
You really
as
know
an
what
officer.
happened? You do.
No. First count, primary counts. Yeah.
Oh,
so basically, the dude found the fucking artillery, and as they're charging forward, he kind of like leapfrog.
He literally pole vaulted
over it
and
basically did a Jackie Chan kick in the fucking Brits. But it doesn't matter. The end result was all of the British artillery are wounded or killed. It's out of action. Now, there's one unit left. Now remember I told
cavalry.
You. No, the 71st. The 71st did not fucking surrender. They're not going to go. They're the best troops on the field. 71st didn't freak out and run away. No, they're the professionals. What they do is they fucking retreat to a fucking hill, and they decide we're going to fight to the fucking last man like we're the Spartans, because they thought what they did in Augusta, where they wouldn't take any prisoners, and what they did in Briar Creek, where no prisoners,
that's coming back.
That's going to come back and haunt them. So they're going to fight to the fucking last man. Now, they are surrounded on all sides by the militia, firing left, right, and center. Every single corner firing up, they're being slaughtered. Now, Howard realizes they're fucking being slaughtered. All right, there's no need to kill all your fucking enemy. Unless you're a brutal fucking asshole. There's no need for it.
We're not fucking Nazis.
Yeah.
God damn.
So he decides the only way I can stop this, he basically yells at the Highlanders, lay all your fucking guns down. Lay flat on the fucking ground, and you will be able to surrender. And what happens is 500 men drop their muskets, lay flat on the ground, and they're able to take the surrender.
In the middle of all this, Tarleton looks at his freaking dragoons.
Yeah.
His guys, his dragoons,
Yeah.
his guys wearing
200
green
of them.
coats, like 200 of them, and says, "Charge!" And they all looked at him and was like, "Fuck you, dude.
Dude,
Not doing it.
It's fucking over. You're an
Not
asshole.
doing it.
We're fucking done.
We're not doing it."
No.
And
now,
all-
part of Charlton's Legion was guys who had come off of the Continental Line, and they're like, "Yay!" No.
They knew there was dudes wearing green that day that were Tarleton's Legion that knew guys that were wearing 1st Maryland coats, that were wearing 1st Maryland lottery coats.
Yeah, they knew the French.
And they were like, "Those are my buddies. We're not fucking doing that." And guess what?
No.
You just got shit kicked out of you. Fuck you, dude. We're not fucking doing it. And they told him to fuck off and they ran out. Now, Tarleton, there was this one little action towards the end of the battle. And there's a great painting that I'm sure.
Yeah, there is a painting.
That I'm
we'll
sure.
We'll put it right here for you.
I'm sure our director will throw it up here
Right
somewhere. for
There's
us.
this looking like that. See
Right.
that shit?
But there's this great painting. Tarleton's looking at the fight, and he's got a couple officers around him, a couple of NCOs around him. He's like, "Oh shit, what the fuck? This is bullshit." William Washington, the badass dragoon, the actual badass dragoon of the American Revolution, not Lee, not Talmadge, I don't give a fuck. William Washington was a badass dragoon of the fucking Revolution. That dude looks up and sees all these clowns watching the fucking end of the battle. The defeat is happening. William Washington freaking says, "Bring it," and takes off after him.
Yeah.
As he takes off after
chasing
him,
after somebody who thinks it's Tarleton.
they think he's Tarleton. They're not sure. I mean, nobody can ever say. We don't know if it's Tarleton. or
Tarleton
not.
said when somebody else said it was. Who the fuck?
Tarleton said, "No, it wasn't me. I don't know."
Neither
Because, Tarleton wrote a whole book justifying everything he did in the American Revolution, right? Which is bullshit. Just like Lee wrote a book that said everything I did in the Revolution was justified, which was bullshit. And then fucking the guy that didn't ever write a book about the American Revolution and what he did to justify it was Washington, because he didn't give a shit, because everything he did was justified. So, friggin', here comes friggin' Washington friggin' rolling down the road going, "That's your ass, bitch." And they get in a fight.
That is your ass, bitch.
It turns into a fucking serious fight. Sabers are thrown, sabers are crossing, freaking people are freaking, throwing fucking swords. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. Oh my God. Supposedly, Washington broke freaking Tarleton's. Washington broke. She's pointing at the sign about, sharp objects.
It's in a sheath.
It's our director. Our director.
Go, keep going.
Almost. Anyway, Washington friggin'. So, one or two things happens. Tarleton's sword gets broken by Washington, or Washington's sword gets broken by Tarleton. Who knows? We don't fucking know. Washington's in a bad way. The freaking Washington's waiter, who could or could not have been an African American man, we're not sure, could or could not have been an African American man, pulls a pistol out and freaking waylays the dude that's freaking to freaking waste Washington out of the saddle with a sword and freaking smacks him with a pistol. At the end of this fight, Washington's horse freaking goes down because Washington's horse has been wounded. William Washington's. At the end of it, Washington's pissed because Washington gave orders that no man will draw a pistol on pain of death. Don't fucking draw a pistol, because the sword is the way a cavalryman goes. Sergeant Major Eversman probably took him aside and said, "Hey, sir, you need to fucking chill right the fuck out, because Junior back there fucking shot that dude and he was fixing to slice you out of the saddle." And Washington fucking said, "Okay, yeah, I got it."
Okay, now
The end of Cowpens was probably one of the. It's one of those freaking turning points. People like to say Saratoga was the turning point of the war. Saratoga was the beginning of the turning point of the war. Cowpens was the actual no shit, oh fuck, we're in a real fight, because he's gonna tell you what fucking happened.
By the way, the picture we had right here, everything about it is correct except the British weren't wearing red. They were actually wearing green. The Americans weren't wearing green. They were actually wearing white.
Yeah.
And the little black kid, there's a very good chance he was a white sergeant major. Other than that, it's totally correct. Now, the outcome, the results.
The original paintings in the South Carolina State House. Just like you know.
And now, the final results, now check it out. This is an extremely one-sided victory.
Very.
First off, the British lost, actually, technically, they lost their entire army. Tarleton lost his entire army.
All of it.
What you got 110 killed. Now remember, Tarleton had about 1,000 guys. 110 killed, you got 229 wounded. So right away off the bat, you got about 450 wounded and killed. Now,
that's fucking ridiculous in the American Revolution.
No shit. That's like half of your guys are killed and wounded.
That's ridiculous casualty numbers.
But wait, there's more. 600 are captured out of 1,000. 600 are captured. Now, if you add into the killed, remember there is 110 killed. So basically, you have close to 800 killed and captured out of 1,000. So what does that mean? All right, numbers. You got like 300 people that got away. That's it. Out of the entire Tarleton's army, 300 got away. Now, what about the American side? Oh, here we go. The massive numbers of the American side. The American side had 24 killed.
That's it.
24. And most of the killed were due to that artillery firing into the Delaware line. Now, you had about 104 wounded, and yeah, there was, like any battle, you always have more wounded than killed. The 104 wounded. Now, this is a massive, major loss. Because remember, Cornwallis lost a third of his army at Kings Mountain. He has just lost another third of his army at Cowpens. All of these guys are being moved into North Carolina. I'm talking about survivors. All of the prisoners are being moved into North Carolina, right around Salisbury, and they are being held there, and they're going to move into Virginia. Remember the plan of Greene. Greene wants Cornwallis to move into North Carolina so he can surround them, cut them off, and annihilate them. Cornwallis has to make a decision. I can stay in South Carolina with 2/3 of my army captured and in North Carolina, or I can go after him.
Oh, remember, Cornwallis has already made FOBs and COPs, combat outposts, all over South Carolina. He's pretty convinced that South Carolina is secure.
Yeah.
He's convinced that his rear area, he's secured because he can go back to a COP or a FOB or anything else, and he's good to go.
Now, Cornwallis has to make a decision. First off, he asks for reinforcements, and they do come down from Virginia. There's a whole thing that happens in Virginia, whole nother issue. But he gets reinforcements, and now he decides to go after Morgan. Now, when he goes after Morgan, he goes into North Carolina. Morgan is done. He's done what he is meant to do. He is retiring for real now. He has basically done what he enticed Cornwallis to follow him, and Cornwallis did.
Morgan is broken.
Oh yeah, but he's got a hell of a record.
He's a broken guy. I mean, he can't freaking. This dude's back's wrecked. He's got freaking rheumatism. He's got sciatica to the point where he can't sit in the saddle. Right.
This is the days before Percocet and gabapentin.
I mean, you got
beer.
I mean, you got booze.
Whiskey.
You got whiskey and you got booze, and that's about it.
You ever wonder why some of the old warriors were always alcoholics? Because they didn't have Percocet and gabapentin. You know, that's what you had.
There you have it.
So anyway, not Tarleton, but Cornwallis has to go into North Carolina. And what this does is sets a chain of events. The next major battle to happen is called Guilford Courthouse.
You had this little thing. You had this little thing called the Race to the Dan.
But it wasn't a battle. It was a drawing.
It was like a month-long freaking campaign.
Yeah. But the last major battle was Guilford Courthouse. And because Cornwallis is in Guilford Courthouse, and he wins, but he wins it to the point that he loses so many men he can't stay in North Carolina. He has to go to Yorktown, Virginia to recover. And once he goes to Yorktown, Virginia, he is so far away from South Carolina, Washington is able to bring down an army of French and American soldiers, surround him, and end up capturing him.
So, y'all tell us,
what's
a bigger fucking fight? What is the bigger fucking turning point of the war? Saratoga or Cowpens?
Yeah.
Because Saratoga, although freaking badass, and although freaking pretty freaking cool ass fight, and yeah, Arnold did his thing, and Gates did his thing, and Gates is a fucking pussy when he comes down south. You tell us, where's the fucking fight? Because the fight happens in Cowpens.
Yeah.
The fight happens where everything changes, where it sets the conditions, it sets all the conditions to create Yorktown than any other battle in the American Revolution.
Alright. Now, you ever wondered why the South was let out of the history books? Why you don't see a lot? If you look at a typical history book of the Revolutionary War, it starts at Lexington and Concord, and it goes to Trenton, and it goes to Saratoga, and then there's a big blank space from Saratoga to Yorktown.
It gets worse than that. If you watch History Channel freaking documentaries, right, that were made in the 90s.
Yeah.
In the 90s, it starts with Saratoga, and all of a sudden you hit Yorktown.
Yeah. So
nobody even talks about what happened in the South. And we haven't even talked about Sumter.
No.
We haven't even talked about freaking Marion. We haven't even talked about how the war in the South was kept rolling. We even talked about little freaking drive-by shootings like Hooks to Feet. We haven't talked about any of that.
Your typical history book, like I said, it starts at Lexington. It goes to a handful of things. Usually, I take it back. It doesn't end at Saratoga. It ends at Monmouth. All right, now Monmouth is 1778. Now, next time you see it picks up is 1781 with Yorktown.
Oh my
now,
God.
hold it. You're talking like 79, 80, 81. There's like 3 years. What the fuck happened in 3 years?
A lot of shit.
Here's what
lot.
happened. It is intentional. And the reason it's intentional is because historians are fucking lazy. I can't, no way to sugarcoat it. I'm a historian. I've written books. Historians are fucking lazy. Historians tend to copy exactly what the last generation wrote.
I'm reading a history book right now that's really fucking lazy.
Yeah, they just copy what the last generation wrote.
I'm not going to say who the author is, but it's really fucking lazy.
So what happens is, right around the centennial, 1876,
Yep.
the North had just fought a war.
Wait, we were
South.
talking about freaking Custer in 1876.
Yeah, we were. That was the last show.
Yeah.
Now, 1876, the North had just fought a war against the South. So in 1876, it's only 10 years after this war. They don't like the South. They're not real thrilled about the South at all. Think about today how we feel about, the Taliban or something like that. We're not real thrilled about them,
Taliban,
So we're not going to write nice history about them.
Oh.
So what happened was the
At all.
North, during the centennial, everybody wanted to write a book, make some bucks, and so they started making a lot of this myth of Revolutionary War. The myth of, like, Paul Revere's Last Ride, where he said the British are coming, which is bullshit, because everybody's British, why would you say that? Or the myth of, like, I don't know, you got who's the fucking woman that made the goddamn flag? What's her name?
Betsy Ross.
Yeah, there was no Betsy Ross. That's bullshit. So it was all made up around 1876.
Yep.
Well, because most of the history books were written around 1876 about the Revolutionary War so they could make a buck, next historians copied it. But because they left the South out, it never was heard ever. And so because of that, most of the fight of the Revolutionary War, the really bloody, horrible battles, were left out of most of the fights.
The crazy shit. I mean, dude, it was freaking literally, it was a civil war. It was not a freaking revolution.
Yeah.
It was a true civil war where we live and where I grew up and where you grew up and where we live. It was a fucking civil war.
Right here, where we're standing, there was an ugly civil war. Now, check it out. Probably the bloodiest war of the entire fucking American Revolution was a battle called Utah Springs.
Oh my God.
The British lost.
That's a whole different fucking episode.
Now,
dude.
the British lost 90%. Think about that. For every 100 guys on the field, you lost 90. And they lost that many people, but you never hear about it because, again, it's part of that whole stigma where the North didn't write about us, so we're not in the history books.
And the other problem with Utah Springs, it was a month before freaking Yorktown.
Yeah. Now, what we brought to you today was what we consider to be the battle. In fact, American freaking officers study this battle to this day.
You and I have done freaking Army staff rides.
Yeah, on the battlefield.
On the battlefield of Cowpens. I
doing a staff ride.
I have ridden horses on Cowpens. We freaking created this. He and I created what is considered one of the freaking most faithful reenactments that has ever been done of Cowpens.
Realistic, not faithful. Nobody died.
Well, I mean, realistic. Realistic. Nobody died. I mean, I got it. Yeah, nobody died. But, I mean, one of the most... we tried to do it down to the fucking minute of what was happening there. And, God bless my father, Herb. I know you'll see this, but yes, you fucking made that shit happen and provided Patrick and I a place to fucking make that shit happen. And we did some fucking badass stuff. But one of the things about Cowpens is it's forgotten. And it's bothersome to me, and I know it's bothersome to Pat, that Cowpens is a forgotten fucking fight that most freaking big brush, roller brush freaking historians out there will look at freaking Saratoga and go, oh, Saratoga. And Cowpens is forgotten. But Cowpens, at the end, was what drove Cornwallis to fucking Yorktown.
Yeah.
It was the beginning of the end.
It pushed him into North Carolina, where he was surrounded. Even though he won, he lost so many men he had to go to Yorktown. And because of that, the end of the war happened.
I mean, fucking Cornwallis marched right by this house where we're filming right now. After Cowpens, he marched right by this house, going to Wilmington, trying to resupply his men.
Barbecue.
And
North Carolina.
Tarleton was doing raids in Barbecue Church, freaking North Carolina, where we're sitting right now.
1781.
Right now. Right now. I mean, it's one of those things that it's a freaking... It's frustrating at one point, but on the other side, it's like, it's liberating to be able to say or be able to tell the true story of what actually happened. I mean, one day we'll tell all of you about how this craziness started, and it goes back to about 1998, 99.
I got jelly on my knife.
Wait, what? You got jelly on his knife.
I got jelly on my knife. So, from F-Bomb History, that was the Battle of Cowpens.
Hey, I'm Bert.
I'm Pat.
And this is F-Bomb History.
Well done.
Came home last night, all full of lush. My babe began to fuss, and I said, honey, hush. I don't care what the people are thinking. I'm not drunk, I'm just drinking. I set 'em up, another round. I set 'em up, another round. I set 'em up, another round. Oh, one more.